Welcome to O-State Daily. Casey Porter here, joined by Scott McKinley as we await a really freaking late game tonight. I am so glad, a couple years ago, OSU, OU, I think Texas Tech, Texas, they were all rumored to go to the Pac-12, and it was like, okay, cool, because at the time it felt like maybe a lifeboat forever, with all the conference realignment. Man, thank God. This 9-15 thing, I'm getting too old, man.
It's funny. I was thinking today about, all right, when was the last time we played a game this late? And the only one I can come up with was 2011 when we played at Tulsa. Remember, that was the lightning game.
Oh, yeah, and then you had all the lightning. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't even think that game started till like midnight or something. But that's the last time I think I had to stay up this late to watch an OSU football game.
Hey, can you make yourself just a little bit shorter there? I should have done this pregame. We're going to do a little bit of on-air right here, a little on-air production. That's good right there, Scott, I think. Let me get back into my program. Yeah, that's perfect right there. Okay, good. All right, so, man, there is a lot to talk about with this. Let me say first and foremost, just congratulations to Robert Allen. Just tremendous reporting on the Zane Flores deal. I can assure you, I know he's like a lightning bolt because he's caught on both sides. I mean, he has a ton of information that he can't give because for obvious reasons. But I'll tell you the biggest reasons why Robert Allen, for the most part, and many times has a lot of information, like the Zane Flores deals, and waits to bring it out to when it's beneficial actually to the program versus being beneficial to him, is because, let's not forget, he played here. His son is a coach here. Robert Allen is a fan of Oklahoma State before anything else, and he does not want to do anything that hurts the program. I can assure you, he has a lot of information that sometimes he never releases because he always puts OSU and OSU football in front of personal gain. I really feel like he did this again. He could have released this any time this season. I can tell you that. We have hinted to that. There's a reason why Scott and I in our last show mentioned that it's going to be Bowman and Rangel. We couldn't release any of the information we had, right? But I can tell you at this moment that he knew well in advance of this, and he waited till it was beneficial for both the fans and the university and the program. And for that, I just think that is very respectful, very upright, very upstanding, tremendous reporting, and that's the way it should be done.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, that's, in this day and age, a lot of times, a lot of reporters would just basically do whatever would promote their career or make them look good or anything like that. But no, to me, it's the thing I look at, like you said, Robert can be a lightning rod in a lot of ways. But I mean, my gosh, the guy loves Oklahoma State, and I think that's something, particularly in a time right now, we're going through all this stuff as fan base is emotional. We're not playing very well. We got to realize, look, we're all Cowboys. I mean, we all want the team to do well, and that includes the coaches, the players, everybody. It gets frustrating when things aren't going that way. But I don't know. To me, it's one of those deals. This is a time we got to rally and stick together as Cowboy fans.
This is not going to be we're going to get into the game and we're going to talk all about it. There's going to be a little bit of a rant at first because this has been a very frustrating week for me, both as an Oklahoma State fan, both as somebody who has a site with, Scott, as well as I do. You have as many connections as I do, but we have tons of connections with inside the program that we either use or don't use, and don't worry, I could give a rat's ass less about any of that kind of stuff. So it frustrates me when you just see this, and Wet Blanket put it perfectly. The rumor mill just be so pathetic this week. I mean, it's just pathetic whenever you throw out rumors about the university you're supposed to love, and you don't even know what the hell you're talking about, and there's not even a semblance of truth to it. And then what's even worse is, like, some reporters, or whatever you want to call them, I don't think you can call them reporters, some of them want to kind of throw out like, okay, well, if I just throw this lightning bolt out there and at least has a hint of truth to it, then I can hide behind that too. All of that is pathetic, man. That just frustrates me to death. I know I'm being very strong here, but I don't care.
Yeah, no, it's the thing that the way I look at it is, if you're an Oklahoma State fan, we're Oklahoma State fans. I'm not looking to try to get clicks. We're not looking to try to get anything else. We want Oklahoma State to be successful because we love our school. We love our team. And frankly, and I know you would echo this, we're not going to do anything that's going to hurt anything with regarding the football team, the school, anything like that. So I totally agree with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Garrett Rangel, coach, there is my rant for the day. I was very opinionated about that. And I think it's because I love OSU and I just want the reporting to be in a way that actually helps OSU and doesn't hurt. And I'm not trying to be on a high horse or anything. That's just my emotions as a fan. So, okay, Garrett Rangel, we mentioned he's going to get the start tonight. I would have to think, Coach, let me go back to last year in the three-way battle at quarterback. One of the things that Alan Bowman said that struck with me was that when you're rotating at quarterback, you feel like you can't punt. And so as a quarterback, when you don't feel like you can punt because you didn't score on your possession, and so then you might not get to go back in, that's when you force a throw that you shouldn't have. That's whenever you don't just, eat it and make it 2nd and 10. You try to force things because you feel like if you do punt, you don't get back in. So from that perspective, I really feel like it's very important that when Garrett Rangel goes out there, he has the string to know that they can go 6, 7, 8 possessions and not score, and he still be in there just so he can go out there and not have to force things. Maybe not 6 or 7 possessions, but you get the gist.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it's very difficult. I mean, obviously he's in a high pressure situation as it is. He's being thrown in there. It's going to be a very hostile environment. Late game. BYU's playing really, really well right now. That's enough pressure on a new quarterback as it is. We don't need added pressure that, hey, if I don't make the right decision here, I'm going to get pulled the next series. One thing that I do think that we will try to do tonight is we're not going to try to make him throw too many difficult, high-risk passes. You know what I mean? At least I would hope we wouldn't be making him throw too many difficult.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah,
I'm being honored tonight. It's Friday night, and we're playing at like midnight, so I'm being a little bit honored. My bad.
Yeah, no,
I'll quit being annoying. Sorry.
Well, I'll say this way: we shouldn't make him have to do that, but you never know what we're going to pull. But I mean, that's the thing. I think what I look at is I don't want it to be. I don't expect for us to see a whole lot of 3-5 step drop where he's just sitting back there in the pocket having to make progression on his reads and that kind of deal.
Throw the ball sideways.
Yeah, exactly. I'm expecting a whole lot of maybe bubble screens to Presley. We're probably going to see a bunch of jet sweeps. The fact that Rangel is a more mobile quarterback than Bowman, I think we will see that incorporated a little bit more into the run game. And maybe that'll help us spring Ollie Gordon, or maybe Rangel can end up rushing the ball a little bit more tonight. But then at the same time, okay, well, now we already know we're down a backup quarterback and Bowman. It is what it is at this point. Okay, well, we don't want Rangel putting himself in a compromising situation either. I mean, there's so many different angles you can look at this. But, one of the things that you hit on at our show earlier this week is we hope that we see a package and a scheme that fits Rangel's what his skill set is. So I'm curious to see how they do that. My guess is we're going to get some different looks tonight. Like you said, throw the ball sideways. I think there are going to be quick passes, pop passes, just try to gain some yards. The other thing that also I thought about today is I'm curious to see what we do from a tempo standpoint.
Yes. It's up there.
Yeah.
The altitude is. Tempo would be tough.
Well, and then the other thing I'm also looking at is, okay, I'm about to go on my schematic rant.
Yeah, there you go. Let's do it. Let's do it. This is the show for it, Scott. Let's go, baby.
Is high up tempo. There are situations where it works very, very well. If you got the defense on their heels, everything's working great. Yes, absolutely go up tempo. But the other thing, there's two other things you got to look at though. Is one, in college football, how many stoppages do we have? You could get a replay at any time.
Yeah.
You could have a guy faking an
2-minute
injury.
warning now. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you get injuries at any time. So basically, if everything is predicated upon you moving fast, there's going to be times where you're going to have to be a little bit more methodical in what you do it. The other thing is from a standpoint of, all right, if Mike Gundy feels that, okay, we're the underdog in this thing, and okay, we know how our defense has been playing, the last thing we need to do is hurry up and have a 3-and-out.
Yeah.
If nothing else, run some clock.
That's a defeatist attitude to me, though. If you coach to, well, I hope this doesn't happen.
Right.
I think that's probably one of the biggest concerns about my complaints about Mike Gundy from fans is that he plays to the, well, I don't want things to screw up, right?
Right. Yeah. And you can't play like that. I'm just saying that it's one of those things that, okay, if it looks like that we're not going to be moving the ball, at our high pressure tempo, the best strategy then is, okay, let's shorten the game so that maybe we will stay close, and then we can take a shot at the end, something like that. I go back to, what we've seen in some of these other games where we try to run fast and all we get a 3 and out. Our defense just gets thrown out there. I remember the Utah game was really, really bad about that.
Yeah.
And then the other thing,
it was 1,000 degrees.
Yeah, exactly. So, the other thing you look at is, okay, the up tempo. How does Rangel feel from a comfort level going up tempo? Does he like going up?
He's done it his whole life.
Yeah, I think he'll be okay. So I'm curious to see what we do with that. If we mix tempos, if we go up tempo, we may try to slow it down. We'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah, about a 2% chance of precipitation. We heard that there might be some sleety type stuff in Provo. Will not be about 46 degrees. To be honest with you, that's cold, somewhat cold for fans, but that's perfect for players. So I think there is a freeze warning here, but you're talking about Provo, Utah. And so, you're looking at 10 o'clock tonight, 59 degrees in Provo, Utah, and you're looking at, is this Provo here? Yeah, it says 62 degrees right now in Provo, Utah, with a low of, I think it said, in the freeze warning. So, down around whatever. So, I think the weather's gonna be good for tonight.
Yeah, no, it may play a small factor, but I don't think it's going to be a major factor one way or the other. It's probably, the weather's actually probably going to be very similar to the BYU game last year, except we had a little bit more precipitation.
The game was cold. It's 48 degrees right now in Provo, Utah.
Yeah. So it'll be cool, but like I said, once players get out there and get running around, they'll be just fine.
Yeah, 8 a.m. 46. It's going to get down to probably around 41, about 42 degrees. So man, that's perfect football weather. So let me push back a little bit about the up tempo. Let's have a good back and forth here, right?
All right.
Okay, so whenever you make a bunch of changes, especially at the quarterback, maybe you make a change or two up front with your offensive line, maybe you use a new running back or two, that kind of thing. That limits the amount of scheme you can put in, correct? Because there's just too many moving parts. You have to keep things simple. So you can either make the personnel complicated by playing a lot of people, which makes the scheme small, or you can use a small amount of people and make the scheme bigger. You can't. It's really hard to do both, right?
Yeah. You gotta pick one.
Right. So with all the differences that OSU is going to have in personnel tonight, maybe that we're hoping to see, I think the scheme's going to have to be even more limited than what we've seen. The only way a limited amount of scheme has any kind of success against the defense that BYU is putting out there is if you do go tempo, because if you go tempo, what that does is it does not allow the defense a chance to even it doesn't allow them to line. They have to line down one way on the first play of the drive, and they have to stay in that line down the entire drive, and there is no time for them to make any adjustments. And so because they don't have time to make adjustments, including just even getting lined down to the right matchups, that makes a limited scheme more effective. Does that make sense? And so my pushback would be, with a limited scheme, the only way that can work is if you go up tempo and force a situation to where Utah has no ability to adjust once you start the drive.
Right. No, and that makes, that makes sense. What you're saying. I just think it's one of those things. I just look at it from a standpoint of, okay, I love up tempo if it works, but at the same time, if BYU let's say we come out in the first two series tonight, we run high tempo, and we go 3 and out on both of them, and we kill 2 minutes of clock.
Play defense.
But at the same time, of course, right now I really don't want defense on the field.
Do you want your offense on the field?
Can we just kick field goals? Is that?
Hey, we've been missing those too, dude.
Yeah, I know.
The funny part of that, this is hilarious. OSU, if you're a true OSU fan, you'll understand the pitifulness in this. I was talking to Scott Tyner. I don't know if you saw the interview I released this morning. Mm-hmm. Scott and I were buds in in college, excuse me. He came in 92. Mike Curtis, we both graduated Stillwater. We lived together. We both came to Oklahoma State. We grew up in Stillwater. We started our time at Oklahoma State in 91. He was a football player, deep snapper. But anyway, Scott and Mike were very close. So Scott, Mike, and I hung out some. And so there's the running joke. Scott Tyner, by the way, in 1992, remember OSU went 0-10-1 in 91. 92 was a more competitive year, but still it was that dark period of Oklahoma State football. So the running joke around campus was that Scott Tyner was the absolute best player on the team. He had thrown 2 touchdowns on fake field goals. And so just listening to you talk like that just reminds me of all those stories. And my OSU fandom just kicks in. That's just, I don't know if that's funny or sad.
Well, I don't know. If we didn't laugh, we'd cry. I think
you just got to laugh at it, man. Yeah, that's all you can do, right?
Yeah.
And he kind of got a kick out of it, too, because he's like, oh, yeah, I knew all about those jokes, right? Okay, so BYU's defense, Coach, I don't know how they've done it. I mean, they have probably the best secondary in the Big 12. They're the number 1 defensive efficiency team in terms of the forward pass in the United States. So, boy, I'll tell you what, if you're Garrett Rangel, you could not have a worse opening starting game for him. First of all, it's a night game in Provo. They're going to have all the fireworks. They're going to have the light shows. It is the biggest stadium in the Big 12. They're going to have over 60,000 people that are just absolutely jazzed up for BYU football. You're playing a very good team, and you're playing a secondary that is very good against the pass. This is a difficult challenge for Garrett Rangel.
Yeah, and I think the thing that, at least in my mind, I'm not going to – I mean, obviously, if he comes out and throws 5 interceptions, that's – in my opinion, maybe differently than this. But I feel like given those circumstances and the fact that we've got deficiencies in almost every single part of the team right now, it's going to be very difficult to judge how does Rangel play tonight. I mean, right now, frankly, if we could just get us, some kind of spark on offense – that to me would be a success. One thing I'm sure that our coaches have discussed with him a lot, and this is true for Mike Gundy and his tenure, no turnovers. That's Mike Gundy is all about ball security. I'm sure that's extra important tonight. Because like you said, with that kind of crowd and everything like that, BYU comes out and gets a pick or gets a fumble recovery, something like that, it's just going to send into a frenzy. And football has a weird way of snowballing on you if that happens. Now, on the flip side of that, the way that OSU could win this game is we create turnovers.
Yeah.
I mean, if we go out there and we force, I don't know,
something of which Retzloff has not done this year. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, again, BYU is very well coached. They're very disciplined. They're a very, very good ball club. But to me, if we're looking for a path for OSU to win, I think that's it. I think our defense is going to have to create turnovers, and we're going to have to play clean on offense. If we win the turnover battle by +2, +3, you never know. One of the interesting things that I've been thinking all week is when you look at the line on this game, last I checked, Vegas only had it at like 6.5.
Yeah. And that, Coach, OSU's got players, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I think is the.
3 weeks ago, it'd have been the other way around.
Yeah. I think that's what's so crazy about this season. Because if you look on paper, all right, who's got the best running back? I think we know the answer to that one.
LJ Martin's back. I'll say you're right, but LJ Martin is back for BYU. There's a reason why Jake Retzloff leads the BYU Cougars in rushing, but that's because LJ Martin has been hurt. He is fully healthy now, and he is back, and he will be in the NFL someday. Yes, Ollie Gordon probably is the best back on the field, but BYU will have a better back tonight on the field than they've had all year. There's another factor that makes it very tough.
Yeah, but you look at all the wide receivers that we've got. I mean, OSU on paper has got the talent to go in there and win this thing. I think that's what's been so
they do.
Just mind-boggling about this entire season is that we know the talent's there. We just haven't been able to put it together. We keep saying on here every single week, well, okay, what happens if we do finally put it together? We could have a pretty good ball club, but it comes down to what you do on the field. It's not just if you don't win games on paper, as they say.
What's wrong with throwing it to the tight end?
Oh, I've been asking. I mean,
is there? I don't get that. I don't understand that.
Yeah, I've never understood it. I mean, it's like anything else. If you get a tight end in space, now you got a guy with the ball and he's got size.
Have you ever seen a tight end covered? I mean, like at any level, NFL, Little League, college, high school, they're never covered, right? I mean.
Yeah, well, and you look at what Josh Ford was able to do earlier this year. That's another thing about our offense. I don't understand why we don't do that. I mean, to me, it would make sense. Okay, if Rangel is as mobile as he is, let's have him roll out. Let's have the tight end run just, in the flats or something like that. Maybe he's the dump down or a running back or something.
Yeah, man.
I mean, there's all kinds of options we can do with that.
So
we don't do it.
Here's the frustrating part of that for me. So, like, just kind of from an X and O perspective, running backs are linebacker covers when they go out for a pass, okay? Yep. That's your back out if you're a linebacker. So if your running back is your outlet and then your quarterback can't run, right, the other team is just going to take a linebacker and cover your running back, and then they don't even have to leave another linebacker in the box. They're just going to blitz him on your immobile quarterback, and it's game, set, and match because you have to hurry out a pass to an outlet who is already covered by a linebacker because that's a back out. So instead, if your outlet is a tight end, okay, and then safeties are being ran off by the really good receivers that OSU has, right? Who in the hell's covering that guy? I mean, these are the simple types of X and O things that, like, they're not complicated to figure out, like who's covering what, this and that. And I just can't figure out for the life of me why OSU can't understand these things. It's weird to me. It's really weird.
Yeah.
They did a good job having an outlet, but being the back, that doesn't work with an immobile quarterback, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. I totally agree. And maybe we'll see that again. Maybe we'll start seeing that tonight. But no, I totally agree. I mean, we've hit that topic, several times. I don't understand why we don't use the tight ends. And I can't tell you how many OSU fans I talk to that have been saying that for several years now. They just don't understand why that hasn't been utilized. But who knows? Maybe we'll see a new wrinkle tonight. Hopefully.
So the field is 55 yards wide, right? And Mike Gundy he complained. The one thing he complains about the most is we didn't use the entire width of the field. And what he means is stretch the field sideways. Well, also a big part of that is using the middle of the field. And when Oklahoma State's going well, they do use Rashad Owens in the middle of the field. They usually run that little mesh route where they have the two crossers, and then Rashad Owens post behind that. But another part of that too is, so I say 55 yards. So if you're from the far hash and you're throwing it to the far sideline, that's what, a 40, 45-yard pass in the air to gain 6 yards, okay? Yeah. Versus if you throw it to your tight end right down a seam, that's a 12-yard pass that once you complete it is already 10 yards downfield, right? I mean, and Mike Gundy, one thing he's really good at is just kind of figuring out the strategies of things and the numbers and the odds of things. Just do that math in your head. And to me, an analytical guy like Mike Gundy, I just can't understand why those analytics and math don't add up to him.
Yeah, because if there's anything, Gundy's going to go. Gundy for the most part will go with for lack of a better term, what the typical.
Yes, he's very analytical.
They're very, very analytical. So yeah, no, to me that would make perfect sense. And the thing, but then at the same time, if we're talking about hitting the width of the field. Okay, well, let's get the ball out to our really fast receivers and see what they can do. Because now the deal is, okay, if we can spread them just a little bit on the width of the field, okay, now maybe there are some things that we can do up the middle. Perhaps maybe that outside linebacker has to cheat a little bit more to the outside because we're just hitting them so hard with that slot receiver.
Now you can run the ball.
Yeah, exactly. But the problem is if all you do is up the middle, and you never stretch it, and you can do the exact same thing as if you go to the outside and then you never go inside. Okay, well now they can,
safeties are playing outside the numbers and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm curious to see what we come out in. I think the one of the things I would say for OSU tonight is, we've always talked about the bend but don't break defense. Let's at least make BYU's defense bend.
Well, the formula for OSU is to figure out a way to run the ball, okay, right? And then figure out a way to complete enough passes to keep moving the chains. Like you said, keep the ball away from BYU, something this offense has not been able to do, okay? And just kind of complete enough passes to move the chains. And then, obviously, on the defensive side of the ball, stop the run yourself and then force Jake Retzloff to throw into tight windows. So, like, you stop the run game. The whole idea of what we do, 40 front, man coverage on the back end, the whole idea of it is stop the run, of which OSU hasn't done, but that's exactly what they're trying to do by having a 6, 6.5, 7-man box. And then by playing the press man coverage, you're trying to take away the first read and make the quarterback throw into tight windows. So you stop the run, make Retzlaff throw into tight windows. You figure out a way to run the ball on offense, complete just enough passes to get first downs. And then, as you said, you look up and you're in the middle of the game in the fourth quarter, and it can go either way. That's the formula.
Yeah, because I don't think anybody's on the illusion we're about to go in there and just put up 50 points and beat them 50-7 kind of a thing. So I mean, there's only a handful of ways we can win this, and that's really the formula. It's how it's going to happen. Let me ask you this question: what you think with Retzlaff? He is a mobile quarterback.
Yes,
he's a disciplined quarterback. He's got a good internal clock, as they say. How do you think that OSU is going to handle it from a blitzing standpoint?
To me, I think, okay, so the way Oklahoma State did their blitzes last year with Xavier Benson and Nick Martin is that they worked off of each other. So, like, Xavier Benson would make a move, and then a lineman would pick Xavier Benson up, and then Nick Martin would delay and blitz, and he would go get home, right? And so the combinations haven't been as good because you're running a 40 front, and you don't have the same kind of layering behind that blitzing, especially after you lost Colin Oliver. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, like, it's become more important to blitz without Colin Oliver because you can't get there with your front down lineman. But then it's also become more risky because now you don't have a defensive lineman that just from a talent perspective actually has the foot speed and athletic ability to actually get a quarterback to the ground, right? Yeah. So you can have all this great scheme and you can say, okay, well, we have 4 linemen here to contain this quarterback. Well, if it's Justin Kirkland and Iman Oates and Colin Clay and even Obi Ezigbo, which Ezigbo is the only one that's even remotely close enough to be athletic enough to even come close to a quarterback in space. Well, once he misses, now what, right?
Yeah.
That's been the problem with the OSU defense is that combination of not having Colin. So, like, if you blitz with Nick Martin and he doesn't get home or he at least influences enough to – so, like, let's say Colin Oliver's on the left. You blitz Nick Martin to the right. That flushes Jake Retzlaff right to Colin Oliver, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, Colin Oliver was athletic enough to go ahead and finish the play.
Right.
Nobody that OSU has on the defense right now is athletic enough to do that. And when you're playing man on the back and everybody's getting ran off because they're looking at the receiver instead of the quarterback, It's a bad combination. So that's a long answer to say I have been saying this forever. Go back to the 30 front. The reason is you get 3 high safeties. That allows you to play a So, like, when you have 3 high safeties, you can still play man on the outside, zone it up on the inside, so then you can layer the quarterback scramble. You're going to give up a little bit more in the run game in terms of, so like OSU might tackle it for a 0-yard gain now. You're never going to do that with a 30 front. It's always going to be about 3 yards. But then again, you still have the 3 high safeties to make sure it's not 63 yards. Right. So when you mentioned bend but don't break, I think that's how you get to it, if I explained any of that properly.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Personally, I like the 30 front. That should just be based on
the personnel OSU has.
Yeah. For the personnel that we have got currently, I think
because we have to blitz. Well, we had Gremlin's there with Scott. He'll be back here in a second. There you go. We had Gremlin Scott. Live show, baby.
There we go.
Hey, got to make adjustments, right? Got to make adjustments.
Yeah. But no, the thought that I have with this defense is, let's be honest, does this defense, because you look at the injuries and everything else we've got, some youth in some areas, this is not going to be a defense where it's just going to shut people down.
No Trey Rucker tonight.
Yeah. I mean, that's just with the personnel we've got. Let's just be realistic. So, to me, what I would love to see this defense become ball hawks. It's okay if the other team has to run, 14, 15 plays to get to the end zone. Okay, well, that's 14, 15 opportunities. They might make a mistake and put the ball on the ground, But if we continue giving up these 63, 65-yard runs, because we just like you said, we got run off because we're in man coverage and nobody's got eyes in the backfield. It gives us absolutely no chance. So, and like we said before, I think the hope tonight is there's something we can hang our hat on. Hopefully we'll move the ball a little bit on offense. We'll get a few stops on defense, maybe get a couple turnovers, at least make BYU earn it. They're a very good ball club, but let's make them earn it tonight. I think that'd be my message.
You're a big-time baseball umpire, right?
Yep.
So the more pitches you see from a pitcher as an umpire, does your strike zone get better?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
Do hitters get better the more pitches they see from a hitter?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So the more plays that a defensive coordinator sees from another team's offense, the more that they kind of get a rhythm of what they do when all the other teams' plays. Everybody knows everybody's plays. Yeah. I mean, hell, there's no secret. Mike Gundy tells you that. Yeah. Play calling is not about what plays you have. It's about how you formation it. It's about how you tilt it. And it's about the timing of which you call it and how you disguise it, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where the chess match gets to be in a football game. And the longer the other team has the ball, right? So if you make them go 15, say, if they go on a one-play drive and score on a long pass, it's 7-0. If that same drive is 15 plays, it's same 7-0, but yet your coach has now 15 plays worth of evidence to get a feel for how this defense is attacking the OSU, attacking OSU, which is why when you saw Brian Nardo last year, and then again the Arkansas game, a lot of times he figured out the puzzle because they weren't giving up the big plays, and then he was able to get a feel for what the other team's offense was doing. So that goes to your point of just make them work down the field. Even if you give up some early scores, let Nardo digest that information and figure the other team's offense out.
Yeah, I like the baseball reference. To me, it's a little bit like if you got a hitter up there and he eventually strikes out, but he made the other pitcher throw 20 pitches,
yes,
fouling it off. Well, okay, now we get into the bullpen a little bit earlier because his pitch count's getting higher. I mean, not to switch sports on us tonight, totally, but it's
Dodgers suck tonight, by the way.
Do it? Oh yeah. I saw the score and I'm like, man, I'm not even going to bring that up.
It's all good. Keep going, man.
Yeah, but anyways, it's the exact same thing. And I think those are the little things inside a game that it doesn't always. You don't put a star by it on the box score sometimes, but it's those little things that can really make a difference. One of the things we've looked at is the time of possession in the last few weeks. That okay, it's brutal. I mean, because we just flat couldn't get anything going on offense. But yeah, no, I think that's the whole thing. What I'd say is let's extend drives. I don't want to say extend drives, but make BYU have to make a number of plays before they get in the end zone. Maybe it'd be great if we keep them out of it. That would be nice too. And then on offense let's at least move the ball. We're probably not going to win this game on field goals, but at the same time, okay, we're shortening the game because we're eating up some clock. We're putting some points on the board. And again, if we can get to the fourth quarter and be within striking distance, anything can happen in the fourth quarter. The ball can bounce funny ways sometimes. The other defense I thought about we'd try the Oregon defense by putting 12 guys out there.
Yeah, right. That'd work. Yeah, that was an interesting play. Well, that's a loophole, isn't it?
Yeah, and I guess they had an interpretation. They fixed it this week, if you will. But
it is 7:30, and we are still an hour and 45 minutes away from this game starting.
God.
Is that right? Yeah, hour and 45 minutes away from the game starting.
Oh my gosh!
On purpose, intentionally. I mean, with no lightning or anything.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is I haven't even eaten dinner yet. I actually postponed that until after we're done, so I can hopefully stay awake.
I mean, who at Oklahoma State agreed to play Utah at Friday night in Provo at 9:15 at night with a team that, when they made the decision, thought could win a national championship? Who made that decision?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Because I remember one time, long time ago, I went to a Texas A&M SMU game. It was the first game of the season, and it was at noon in Texas.
Yeah.
That was
hotter than crazy.
Yeah, but it was all TV. It was just TV runs everything today. That's just. I mean, it's that's the thing. Athletic departments these days they make money off of attendance, season ticket sales, obviously.
Yeah. Gremlins again, Scott. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but you just froze up. Talking about TV attendance and Oklahoma State playing. There you are, Scott. There you go. Making adjustments. Here we go.
Yeah. So no. Anyways, we look at athletic departments. Obviously, season tickets are a big part of it, but that TV revenue is becoming such a big deal. Not just, obviously you want, the money, but also the exposure. But of course, I don't know exactly how many eyeballs are going to be watching this thing in the central part of the states that aren't OSU fans at 10:30 at night, but whatever. I'm not a TV exec.
Yeah. BYU has fans all over the world. I mean, they have a massive fan base. I mean, I did an interview with their play-by-play voice, Greg Wrubell, and it has over 10,000 views. And I promise you all but about 100 of those are BYU fans. I just guarantee you they are. These BYU fans are absolutely rabid about football, and they are totally excited about being in the Big 12. There's a couple of things here. One is, Utah was in the Pac-12 forever. Utah and BYU were in the same conference, Mountain West, forever. And then for some reason, BYU won the national championship back in 1986, I think it was. And then for some reason, Utah got the bid to the Pac-12 over BYU. So here BYU stuck in the Mountain West Conference, whereas Utah is in the Pac-12. So now Utah is elevating over BYU. So BYU was stuck, so they went independent for 12 years, right? And independence was cool because then you could play, USC, and BYU had enough of a brand name to get some good matchups, but still their bowl opportunities were limited, and they just were kind of stuck, right? And so when they got this offer to the Big 12, this was like, this is our chance to become BYU from 1986 again. And they're seizing the opportunity, man. That's really how they feel about this.
Yeah, like I said, it's one of the largest stadium in the Big 12. I tell you, I've been out there. It's an absolutely gorgeous location.
It's unbelievable.
I mean the mountains and everything. And I got to say one thing. I've been around BYU fans quite a bit. They're great.
They're incredible. They're incredible.
Fantastic. Of course, my favorite part of BYU has to be the mascot, the Cougar. Have you seen it, man? That guy can dance. He can do push-ups. He can do backflips. I'm still waiting for the day we can get Pistol Pete to do a backflip with the headgear on and everything.
Or make a shot on the basketball court. I've never seen him make a shot.
Yeah.
He keeps trying, that underhand like that. I've never seen him make one, though.
Yeah. That'd be about as much luck as I'd have making a basketball shot these days.
Yeah.
But
okay, offensively, Oklahoma State needs to run the ball. My thoughts on that is, first of all, Ollie Gordon, we'll see how he runs the ball tonight. We'll see how the offensive line blocks. There are limitations there. Like Cole Birmingham has had 2 surgeries. He's not going to get healthy again while he's at OSU. I mean, it is what it is. You're trying to deal with some damaged goods there, no doubt about it. And you haven't had a mobile quarterback. So, like, whenever you pull a guard and tackle, then they've just been chasing the pullers, blowing up mesh points, all those kinds of things. So that gap scheme that saved OSU seasons last year, as good as it was last year, it's been equally as ineffective this year. And so one thing that I'm really curious to see, you mentioned Oregon earlier. I thought that was curious that you mentioned them, because if you remember, like the Kenyon Barner, and they had a running back named Tyner, I think it was, but they were these little guys that were really fast, right? Mm-hmm. And so what they would do under Chip Kelly is that they would zone block one way, and then they would hand the ball to the running back going the other, to a really fast running back. It's called zone away. And geeky football terms, they call it bash concepts, back away from blocking scheme, right? So I say all that to say, one way to get, so instead of running gap scheme where you're blocking down to backer and then pulling guards, instead of doing that, just run your zone scheme one way and then run back the other, and it gives you the exact same effect as gap scheme, but it's not asking a Cole Birmingham, who's physically not capable of pulling right now, to have to pull. They can still zone scheme and get the same effect of the gap. I think with the mobile quarterback, that has a chance to work. I'll be interested to see if they put any of those bash concepts into the scheme tonight.
Yeah, it's similar. I remember we used to run a play under Les Miles where something like that is almost kind of like a counter pitch.
Yes,
where
exactly. It's exactly what it is. Yes.
Yeah. Another thing that I would be curious to see if we would use this is if we would put Valahi back there, line him up right next to Rangel and Gordon. You think about it now, you got potentially 3 running options coming out of the backfield.
Why not do that with Presley?
Yeah, and you could line up. You could run Presley on a motion. So you can have him up kind of in a little bit of a slot behind the tight end. There's all kinds of things you could do, and basically we got threats where you can go any direction. That's the kind of stuff that I would love to see us try to do. But at the same time, going back to with Rangel's situation and everything, I think Gundy's they're going to do as much as they can to make sure that Rangel is comfortable with whatever they decide to run. And like you said earlier, we can't have the scheme isn't going to be this wide because we have, you know what I mean? We can't be throwing the kitchen sink. We're going to try. They're probably going to pick a handful of things that they think we can do well and execute and try to continue running those. And hopefully we have success with it. That's probably what's likely going to happen tonight.
The three linebackers of BYU are absolute tackling machines. The secondary for BYU is the number one pass efficiency secondary, I believe Greg said, in the country. And then the front four, I'll say this, they've done better at pressuring the quarterback, but I think the one silver lining for OSU tonight is that BYU is by far not great at sacking the quarterback. And especially if you have any cut course now, they played Avery Johnson. They played, I can't remember the guy's name at Arizona. They played some mobile quarterbacks, so that plays into it too. But Garrett Rangel is going to be mobile. So I think one thing that does play into Oklahoma State's favor is that they are not great at sacking the quarterback.
Yeah, and to give our offensive line credit, they've done a very nice job of protecting on pass protection this year. So, so I mean, you never know. I mean, if Rangel gets comfortable back there, obviously if we provide good protection, give him a little bit of time to make throws tonight.
Give him the right routes.
Yeah, give him the right routes. Make it. He knows where he's going before he even snaps the ball. One of those kind of things. You never know. I mean, I think that's the thing is, I know a lot of OSU fans, we're really down right now. This is not what we expected for this season to go. But at the same time, the ingredients are there for this still to be a good football team. We just haven't done it. We may not do it, but at least there's potential there. The fact that Vegas had this as a 6.5 point line means that somebody's thinking the exact same. They're thinking along that line too. Because if you were to look at the records and also how Oklahoma State has played up to this point, man, you would think that line would be closer up to 18 or 20. But we all know the potential is there. We just got to put it together.
I do think, although BYU secondary has been fantastic, I think by far this will be the best receiving core that they've seen easily.
Yes. Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. I mean, that's the thing. I think again,
BYU right now is just going, what the hell is this OSU? I mean, like their play-by-play guy was just literally like, I can't get my head around this. What's going on here, right?
Yeah, no, it's the same thing we've been doing. We've been scratching our heads for weeks now.
They're scared to death. I'm telling you that.
Yeah, because seriously, there's not a receiving core out there that I love our receiver. We've got some great wideouts out there. We just got to find a way to get them the ball in space. That's all this is. And sometimes football can be real simple. Sometimes as guys, whatever scheme we decide to go with tonight, execute it. Literally just go out there. You know what? I need you to block this guy. Go block him. And if you'll do that and you'll do it with good technique and reckless abandon, as they say, sometimes, good things might happen. Sometimes football can be a simple game.
Do you expect to see Bowman at all tonight?
I'm going to say no. There's always a chance, but I really think
for what reasons? Just because you got to show that you have Rangel's back, or just because you think Rangel's going to play good?
I think a couple of things. I think one, it would be strange to put him back in after you've pulled him several times in the last couple of games. That's kind of an oddity. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know where Bowman's headspace is at. I mean, again, I don't know. That'd be a total speculation, but I can't believe that, he's in a great spot after the way this has gone. And I think that we're going to try to stick with Rangel as long as they can. Unless everything just totally comes off the rails. My expectation is we're going to see Rangel. So
yeah, we're going to see the entire game is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Hey, we have a good crowd logging in, Coach. Matter of fact, we have a great crowd for just getting these live started. We're going to try to have pregame shows before and then postgame shows after, but of course not tonight because it's going to be like 6 o'clock in the morning by the time this game's going to end, and I am way too old for that. Hey, Wet Blanket, thank you so much for joining. Yeah, Wet Blanket says the rumor mill was absolutely pathetic this week, no doubt about it. Brittany McKinley, been saying that for years. Hey, yeah, there you go. About the tight ends, right? Yeah. She says amen to using the tight ends, right? Yeah. This is a McKinley thing, right?
Yeah. I got to give. I mean, I'll tell you this. I got to give my wife credit. She understands a lot more about football than a lot of people. And she's been saying that for years.
Well, she's been saying throwing at the tight ends for years. I'm in, man.
Yeah. She's been saying that for a very long time. So maybe she'll get her wish tonight. That'll be my hope.
She ever critique your officiating?
Yeah.
Can you give us a story?
Yeah. Well, this wasn't a critique, but it was a funny. I remember I was calling a game. This was many years ago, and I was white hatting, and that
means you're the head referee.
Yeah. I'm the head guy, and I told her, I said, now listen, you can come to this game, but don't dare tell anybody that you're with me. Don't do that. It's a safety concern. Well, we had a play, and it was the old intentional grounding. We didn't have that. There was no pocket in high school ball. It was whatever.
It either is or it isn't. Yeah.
Yeah. So and that rule has changed over the years now. But anyways, so we make a call. We have an intentional grounding call. We got the call right per the rule at the time. And apparently, the fans are up there booing me and everything else. And all of a sudden, she's like, she knew the rule too, and she's like, maybe it's this. And they're like, you know what? Maybe you're right. And then they asked her. They said, "How do you know that?" She goes, "Oh, my husband's the referee."
Oh my gosh! Yeah, oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
Well, but she made friends. So after that, they're like, "Really? Yeah." So they're actually all pretty nice. But
hey, Coach, Rich says the Pokes can catch them by surprise and play like last year, and really have a great game. Interesting that OSU got down 18 points in this game at home to BYU. You forget that because OSU came scrambling back and won that game in overtime. If you remember, they kept throwing it to the tight end on that little waggle pass, a little flat pass. They had completed one, I believe, at the end of regulation. Can't remember the tight end's name. But Trey Rucker came up and stopped that play and caused a caused a fumble and recovered the fumble to end the game. And that was a huge, significant game because BYU stormed out to a 5-1 record, never got their 6th win of the season. And then that game, obviously, OSU had to win to qualify for the Big 12 championship. So there was a lot of stakes on the line. So, yeah, let's not forget, BYU, they didn't have the consistency they've had this year, but they had moments in flash. They had OU beat, too, at home there the week before they played OSU. They had flashes last year of showing how good of a team they could have been.
Yeah, and the other thing that I throw out there is as wild as the Big 12 has been this year, we've seen some really crazy results. I would not have figured the BYU would have done what to K-State, what they did. There's been some other ones out there as well. So this is the Big 12, and we said this before the season, that when you look at competitiveness, the Big 12 is going to be as competitive as any league in America just because the talent of these teams is so close to each other.
Yes.
Because really, again, BYU's been going on a tear. Iowa State's playing well. K-State's been doing their thing. But the overall talent in all of those teams, there's matchups like there always are. There's some you're better in one position, you're worse in the other. But the talent level's pretty close. So I would throw it out there. And again, surprise could always be on our side because they don't have BYU doesn't have as much tape on Garrett Rangel as they do Alan Bowman. Now I'm sure there's some because Rangel, it's not like this is the first time he's taken a snap. But at the same time, this is the first time that he's been the starter, and we're going to be putting things in to play to his strength. So
off the off week,
yeah. So there is an element of surprise here that OSU could be bringing to the table tonight.
That's a good point there, Rich. Hey, DF, thank you so much for joining. BYU fan. Lavelle Edwards Stadium is a difficult place to play, no doubt about it. We have both been there. My dad was a Big 8/Big 12 official for many years, still is a replay official, and so we have been to BYU. I can't see the Big 8 and the Big 12, or the Big 12, and then also the Mountain West Conference. They shared officials for many different years, and so got to go to like the San Diego States and all those different venues, and been to BYU. And so, yeah, definitely LaVell Edwards Stadium. It is big boy football, biggest stadium in the Big 12, 65,000 fans, 4,500 feet elevation. It's at night. The fireworks are going to be going off. It's going to be a big boy atmosphere, of which I'll say this, that's usually when Mike Gundy's at his best, because his culture is all about not taking in all those environments and staying even keel even through all that bigness, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, and like what we talked in our show earlier this week, sometimes that road game makes you focus on the task at hand. It's my hope is, just going back to Rangel, he's so focused on what we're doing that all that other stuff just doesn't, it just doesn't matter.
Especially if he has success early.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's like I say, it's a very, very difficult environment. This is a very, very difficult task for the Cowboys tonight, no doubt. But and I would have said that even preseason before we've even gone through our struggles. I had this game circled as this one's going to be a tough one. But again, you never know. I still think the X factor in this whole thing could be turnovers. If we can get a few turnovers, that becomes the great equalizer. I've seen countless times over the years where one team had a lot more talent than the other one, but they turn the ball over 5 times and end up losing. That is a great equalizer in football.
Of course, L.J. Martin is back at the running back spot. That's going to be a huge, huge factor for them, Coach. It's an offensive line for them that has done a good job amidst the prospect of the fact that they've kind of had to shuffle around and kind of fit some pieces here, fit some pieces there. We remember Caleb Etienne, who is at Oklahoma State, and now he's been at BYU. This is his second year there. So they have done just a tremendous job with no starting running back that's healthy, and quite frankly, an offensive line that's had to shuffle around in front of Jake Retzloff. They have figured out a way to do a good job in those situations.
Yeah, and that's all a part of it, because in football, that's an unfortunate fact. Injuries are going to happen. That's just that. I don't know if I've ever seen a football team go an entire season where nobody missed time to the injury. This is a very physical game. That's the only thing about this sport that I don't like. Everything else I love. I love everything about this game. But yeah, no, they've managed it very, very well. Obviously Oklahoma State is fighting the exact same thing with the injured bugs kind of struck us a little bit as well. But that, again, that's all part of it. And I know coaches, it's an overused line with that next man up mentality, but you have to have that, because if you're the number 2 guy, literally you are one play away from going in. So you got to be ready.
Hey, PB Shear 100, thank you so much for joining. Says, well, Trey Rucker is out, so things are not even looking hopeful. So yeah, how big of a loss is Trey Rucker to this Oklahoma State team?
I'm not gonna downplay it. That's a huge loss. Yes. Trey Rucker is absolutely he's one of our best players. He's one of our best defensive players we've had in a number of years.
Kendall Daniels back to safety? One of those deals? Like when you bring in a shortstop to pitch, you bring in your center fielder to play shortstop, left fielder goes to center field, right fielder goes to left field, somebody comes off the bench to play right field. Is it going to be one of those cascading deals?
Probably. We're playing roulette with who we're going to throw out there.
You've done that behind home plate before, like going, okay, now who's going?
Yeah. We're going to see everybody down there with the whiteboard, just figuring out, all right, who is healthy? Who?
And then when it's not district, finally about the third one, you go, oh, screw that. I'm not writing any more of these down. Just do whatever you need to do, right?
Yeah. You just point to somebody. He's walking around.
The Gremlins are getting Scott again. We're getting a little bit too honored, a little bit too excited about this Oklahoma State BYU game. Yeah, Scott, you just cut out just for a second again there, but continue on.
There we go. Yeah, no worries. But no, losing Trey Rucker, that's a big deal. But again, injuries, you're going to have to deal with it. That's football. So.
It absolutely is. So it'll be interesting to see how Kendall Daniels gets used. I'm going to say this point blank. Kendall Daniels is a wonderful player when he wants to be. When his motor goes, he is fantastic. Oklahoma State cannot win games if the most talented player on their defense gets 3 tackles. Meanwhile, you have other guys on this defense that have maybe a tenth of the physical ability of Kendall Daniels, and they're lapping him 3 times in tackles, okay? Take that however you want to take it. I'm just going to put it as that's just a fact in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But we need Kendall to be, like Nick. One of the things
get your motor going, bro. I mean, come on, man, get your motor going. Let's go.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Not to compare players, because again, they're both very, very talented players.
Yes,
that's what made Nick Martin so good.
No doubt.
He just had a nose for the ball. He would find a way to get in there on the tackle and make a difference. Basically, we need Kendall to do the same thing tonight, in a really, really big way. So
how good is he whenever his motor is going and he is totally hooked up and locked in? how good is he? I mean, right? I mean, that's the frustrating part of him.
Well, I can tell you, I actually officiated for him when he was in high school several times. Yeah. And of course, I mean, obviously he was very physically dominant. I mean, when you get a legitimate Division I prospect, playing that level of football, yeah, he was dominant, but you could see that when he goes, he's an incredible athlete. So yeah, whatever it is to get the motor running tonight, Kendall, man, we need you, buddy.
Yeah. I love Chase Robertson, man. I tell you what, man, he's my favorite player on the team right now. This dude, win, lose, or draw, he's playing for the name on the front of the jersey, not the name on the back. He's playing for respect. He's playing because he loves OSU, and he's playing because he wants to win. No matter how bad things have gotten for OSU, there is one guy. There's more than one, obviously, but there is one guy that stuck out to me that needs to be highlighted the most, and that's number 22, Jeff Robertson. That dude has been a stud, my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we talk about, the type of player that we're going to want to recruit moving forward, everybody's, about NIL, we got to go get the 5-star kid. We got to go get all these athletes. And yes, you got to get talent. I'm not negating that. But you need guys like Robertson. You need those guys in there that they're playing for the front of the they're playing for the name on the front.
You tell them to blitz, they do it perfectly. Yes. You tell them to spy the quarterback, they're in the perfect spot. They do everything perfectly to the script how you tell them to do it, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, you get a guy that goes with great effort and is disciplined and does what he is coached to do. It's amazing how many games those guys can win for you. And like I said, again, you don't have to. Yes, we got to go after talent and all that kind of stuff. But man, I tell you what, and this from coaching. Man, I'll take a kid like that any day of the week. That's the kind of kid I want. I'm willing to spend extra time coaching that kid, helping him progress and making him the best player that he can be.
If you want to know what that looks like, go watch Bishop McGinnis play football. I mean, they've had the running back that went to TCU and then Oklahoma State. They had that guy who transferred from Piedmont. Richardson, I think was his last name. Dom Richardson, yeah. I mean, they've had some pretty good players, but they haven't had like multiple Division I players like Carl Albert has and even Guthrie on certain years and that kind of deal. Certainly not like the 6A schools or even like Tuttle has this year at receiver. But if you watch Bishop McGinnis play, they'll line down in a million different formations. They'll motion 7,000 different ways. They'll tilt everything differently, and they execute everything to a T. It's like having 22 Jeff Robertsons on the field. And at the end of the day, you look around and you go, well, I think we're better physically at this spot. And you go, well, hell, they just beat us by 28 points because they never made a mistake, right?
Yeah, and that goes into everything because if you have a team that is disciplined like that, they're not going to have penalties. They're going to hang on. They're probably not going to turn the ball over as much because they're not going to make a dumb throw at some time. They're not going to carry the ball the wrong way as a running back. And again, it comes down to those little bitty things. I mean, we always talk this game's a game of inches. The team that is disciplined like that, more often than not, they're going to win every one of those inches that they need. So.
Mobile quarterbacks, we'll get to the receivers here in a second. We're getting ready to get out of here. Mobile quarterbacks have killed OSU. Jake Retzloff is definitely that. If Scott McKinley's calling the defense for Oklahoma State tonight, what's the game plan against Retzloff? Keep in mind that BYU has returned every single receiver from last year too. So it's not like you can just say, let's take our chances on the receivers because the receivers are real good too. What's the game plan on Jake Retzloff?
To me, I think what we need to do is, one, we need to keep everything in front. Like I said before, okay, I know nobody likes hearing bend but don't break, but don't let somebody get loose on you. If they get 3 or 4 yards, okay. We live to fight on the next play, that kind of thing.
Or 6.
Yeah. I mean, that's they're going to get some yards tonight. I don't think anybody's under any illusion that BYU is going to come out of there with less than 100 yards of offense. So to me, I think what we've got to do is keep everything, do whatever we can to keep them in front. I'd expect us to, like I said, we're going to blitz some just because we're a blitzing team. But if it was me, I think I would back off a little bit on the blitzes. Again, like you said earlier, try to make it congested. Make Retzloff have to make some really tough throws into some tight windows.
Enough pressure to where he feels like he has to throw it. right? That kind of thing.
Yeah. Get just enough pressure to make him feel uncomfortable, because the idea with a mobile quarterback and one that is as smart of a ball player as he is, the chances that we're going to come out of this game getting 5 or 6 sacks, okay, that's just not realistic. That's just not going to happen. So to me, I think the whole key tonight is keep everything in front of you, and make them have to march down the field in order to score instead of just giving it up in one or two plays.
We have a question here from PB Shooter 100. Who is quarterback number 3? That would be Malalaki Smith, the 6'5", 6'4" freshman out of Junipero Serra, California. And I have a little bit of experience with him because on my Dodgers Daily site, one of my guys that I talked to quite a bit, James Outman, who is a starting center fielder for the Dodgers in 2023, lost his job this year because he struggled to hit. But anyways, James Outman, he went to Junipero Serra, and he knows Coach Walsh, and Coach Giannino's not there anymore, but Coach Walsh is the head coach there at Junipero Serra. And James Outman goes back every year. James was a linebacker in that program. So I kind of actually knew about Malalaki Smith before he came to OSU because James was telling me about this quarterback they had. So it was kind of a neat little connection there. So I say that all to say this guy's the real deal. Junipero Serra there in California in the Sacramento area, that is a program that is like a Bixby. It's like a former Jinx, a former Union. It is basically a junior college program. So he came to Oklahoma State from a schematical perspective in his mind, the types of schemes they ran. And then also the one thing at James, if you just look at a picture, right now if you're by a computer, just Google James Outman. The dude looks like a Greek god, right? Okay, the one thing he said about Junipero Serra is that their weight program's like better than a lot of colleges. So he came physically ready to play the college game. And then also that level of football that Serra plays there in that Northern California area, he played big time competitive football. So I have zero hesitation of putting in Malalaki Smith into this lineup as QB number 3 if you wanted to bypass Alan Bowman. Now, I guess the question is Smith QB 2 or Alan Bowman number 3? We'll see there. I think that the goal here is play Rangel the entire game, though.
Yeah. We touched on it earlier in the show that I think tonight we will see Rangel unless there are some other extenuating circumstances why we wouldn't. But otherwise, I think this is Garrett Rangel's night.
Okay, so, Scott, we have been on just a little bit over an hour. We wanted to go right at about an hour with this. Keys to tonight's games for Scott McKinley.
Keys to tonight's game, as we just spoke, keep for the defense. We gotta come up with some stops. We got to keep guys in front. Again, I think the key for OSU to win tonight is turnovers. We got to take care of the ball. 2, if we can create several. It's going to. I'm not talking about one turnover. I'm talking we need several turnovers
and then score off of them.
Yeah. I mean, a pick 6 would be fantastic. One of those kind of things.
Have you seen the differences BYU's had in turnovers? I mean, it's like 55-3 in points this year. That's like been their number one ingredient.
Yeah,
that would be totally flipping the thing on its head right there. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, well, and that's why I say turnovers are so important. Look what it's done for BYU.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I think that tonight is obviously all eyes are on Garrett Rangel. Again, this is a very, very difficult situation to be putting Garrett Rangel in. So if he doesn't come out there and just set the world on fire like he's Joe Montana. Okay, that doesn't mean that he didn't practice this week. It doesn't mean that it's just there are other extenuating circumstances that are going into it. But if we can get some production out of him and we can get something going on offense, and I think more than anything else, if he can emerge as the leader of the offense and the guys have some start getting some confidence in him moving forward, I think that's what we're looking for. So
unlike the last 3 games, I'm going to keep this really simple. I've talked about a lot of the X and O's that I don't need to go back over those that I want to see in this game. I think it's as simple as this, Scott. I mean, I think OSU needs to get out to a lead so they can play whatever tempo they want to play. Run the ball after you get a lead. Kill the clock. Look up in the 4th quarter. You have a 3-point lead with the ball. I think it's simple as that. Get a lead and try to front run a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes, like I said, we analyze and analyze it. Sometimes football's a very simple game.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very, very simple game. You know what, guys? I need you to run that way, and I need you to go until you see
and kick that guy's ass.
Yeah. No, I hope it's like I'll tell a story. I think it was Lou Holtz said one time this kid, his defense gave up like an 80-yard run. And then Lou Holtz goes up to his D coordinator and he's yelling at him, "You want to tell me why that kid just ran on an 80-yard run?" And the D coordinator said, "Well, coach, that's all he had to go." Like, he didn't have to run 90.
That is hilarious. That is absolutely hilarious. Scott McKinley, this has been a heck of a lot of fun. This is the first of many of these pregame shows, especially on the road games when we're not at home. So, hey, a lot of fun. Thanks for joining, man.
Yep.